I please ask Amit and from ENY and Nabil from Aayera to come on stage and present a token of thanks to Lakshmanan sir. Waterways. He is the former CEO, REC PDCL. Mr. Lakshmanan is an Indian Administrative Officer of 2004 batch from Bihar cadre. He is also a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Prior to joining REC, he has served for 14 years in the government of Bihar and has held various important positions. So we will have a small chat between Vineet and Mr. R. Lakshmanan.
For attending this session, and it's my privilege to host this session with sir. So I think this was already an introduction given by Aayera team about sir, but I don't think that anyone in this room is not well known to sir and what he has done in the power sector, be it from REC PDCL side or his journey with Bihar Discom as well. So with REC PDCL, sir was very instrumental in terms of taking forward RDSS scheme, and we all know that RDSS scheme largely focusing sector driven but through digital intervention. So I'll not take too much time and will ask sir's view that what is his understanding in terms of these digital adoption by the utilities, because we are banking a lot on digital technologies or disruption to achieve our end objective in terms of financial sustainability of the discoms and the customer delight part. So sir, over to you. I'll not take too much time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vineet. At the outset, I would like to thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be part of this conference. So digitization has been a major disruptor in the power utility space, and especially in the last 10 years, a lot of interventions and initiatives have laid the foundation for this, starting with programs like the RAPDRP and followed by IPDS and the National Smart Grid Mission. So they have tried to take up the latest interventions in terms of mostly pilots. And these pilots have now created a learning in the utility space amongst the discoms, amongst the transcos, as to what are the possible applications and how to handle it. So that has kind of set up the base. But then now the the tipping point is it has to be scaled up to utility scale implementations. So probably once we see digitization, it can be looked at in three parts. So as utilities, the first key piece would be to digitize the assets, the physical assets, because they have assets spread across the geography. So it's important that they start with digitizing the assets, the physical assets, especially a lot of interventions that are happening in terms of digitizing the assets. One is the prepaid smart metering, which is happening. That would be a key piece in terms of ensuring that each and every meter is communicated, networked, and it is talking to the system. And similarly, the distribution transformer meters and the feeder meters, they are also getting picked up. And that would also add to it the digital input, DI ports, and the elements of the GIS mapping, geotagging of assets, and probably like with drone mapping. So this first layer of digitizing the assets would be a key, starting point. And once these assets are getting digitized, then it throws up a lot of real-time data for the utility to look at. Today, like most of the decision making in terms of your constraints, where the system constraint exists, where you need to invest more, in terms of system planning, design, network planning. So all of that in many utilities is mostly like, based on whatever is the human understanding. It's not based on a scientific analysis or understanding of the network and where the gaps are and where the load is likely to increase or where the losses are. So all of that, or where the reliability is poor. So all of that is like mostly like it is based on the human understanding of the utility. So digitizing the assets is one key piece, and second would be the digitization of the processes. So with digitized assets, it would be like more fruitful to digitize the processes, but both can go on in parallel. It need not be sequential. Especially like digitizing the processes, couple of key pieces that needs digitization is the metering, billing, collection, or the revenue management software, and the other piece is the ERP. And on both these fronts, I think the utilities are by and large better in the case of revenue management systems, but they are not still up to the mark in terms of the ERP implementation. In both these pieces, like both the revenue management system and ERP implementation, the new scheme, RDSS scheme, is providing support to the utilities. And most of the utilities have got their schemes sanctioned, so they are in the process of procurement, and the industry has a huge opportunity to participate and be a part of this digital transformation of the utilities. And similarly, on the digitalization of assets, again, the prepaid smart metering is a major component of the RDSS scheme. As we stand today, close to 18 crore meters have been sanctioned, and close to 10 crore meters tenders have been invited, and they are in different stages in the market. And as we are digitizing the processes, like the use of data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these become incidental to the digitization of processes and the data that is coming up from the digitization of assets. And this then helps the energy transition also in terms of your ability to integrate renewable energy into the utilities uh, energy mix, and your ability to forecast demand accurately, your ability to implement demand response, your ability to integrate EV into your system. So all of this is like very closely like intertwined. And the third piece would be the digitization of the grid, which essentially like would involve components like your advanced distribution management system, or the DMS system, or the outage management system, the SCADA systems. So this piece would then be a OT kind of a layer on top of the digitization of assets. And if one is able to implement these three pieces in a coordinated fashion, the key challenge in utilities is to have an integrated approach and to have a coordinated approach, so that these different systems come up and they are able to talk to each other, and they are able to get benefited out of each other. So that piece is also to be kept in mind, so that they have a long-term roadmap, and then maybe like you have phase-wise implementation. It's not possible for a utility to consume so much of changes at one go, but then one needs to plan it out in such a fashion that one is able to take it up in phases, but then like have a overall roadmap.
Thanks, sir. So nicely articulated, but the only point which coming in my mind, based on the previous learnings which we have seen, be it APDRP, then subsequently RAPDRP, IPDS scheme, where digital was partially involved. So in fact, if I'm not wrong, I would say ideally digital was digital entered in power sector arena from RAPDRP journey onwards, where key applications like all business process automations, metering, billing, collection, and then GIS. While we are talking in this scheme, RDS scheme, we are talking about unified billing system, we are talking about ERP, we are talking about smart metering. On top of that, we have already identified 8 areas for analytics per se in various, when we are doing pilot also. So the only hunch or the challenge which I foresee, that whether utilities are pretty much ready for that kind of to adopt all those technologies? So you've been part of discussion with many utilities and many forums also. So what do you see, what kind of a challenges utility will face in this journey? And not only utilities, are OEM, system integrators, who are part of this forum also, they may face, and how they should be equipped with those kind of challenges.
So, you know, this essentially like involves, maybe like it can be seen in two parts. One is like the capacity of the utility, the competency, the skill sets within a utility to, absorb this. As we stand today, like most of the utilities have, differing levels of digital maturity. So it may not be like right to, paint all the utilities in one brush. There are utilities like states like AP, Telangana, Maharashtra, to a large extent Bihar, MP, West Bengal. They are quite, prepared, and probably like they are equipping themselves to undertake this journey in a better way. So, depending on where you stand in terms of your ability to absorb or handle digital projects, the utility has to, take a calibrated call in terms of what business model they should adopt for implementing this. Especially like the national prepaid smart metering rollout, keeping this aspect in mind, has been done on a PPP model, so that like we are able to leverage the strengths of the private sector, so that like they become partners, they invest in the journey, and they also like take up the responsibility of operating and maintaining the system and delivering a particular set of SLAs, so that the utility is able to ultimately like, benefit out of the outcomes or outputs of the system. But at the same time, the current financial situation also does not uh, permit the utilities to invest upfront in huge capex. So this public-private partnership model also like, mitigates that also, wherein like you invest a portion of it and the private partner brings in the rest of the investment, so he becomes a partner. And the critical aspect when you are engaging on a business model like this from a utility perspective is you need to treat the private player as a partner, not typically as a contractor. So this change in mindset is also essential if you have to work together to make the initiative successful. And similarly, like the even the softwares, the earlier generation of procurement was mostly on a capex mode, and then like it was, FMS and that kind of structure was followed. Going forward, it is most likely to be on a SaaS model, either infrastructure as a service or software as a service or the end-to-end package as a service, wherein again typically the system integrators or the product, the IT companies owning the products, they were not used to this kind of cash flow structure. So even the metering industry or the SIs involved in the smart metering piece, they are not used to this kind of business model or a cash flow structure. So this is a space where I think industry also, the private companies also have to rethink, reorient themselves, and try to see that they are equipping themselves to invest and become a partner in the journey, rather than selling a product and then, doing a service. So you may have to uh, operate the thing and deliver the SLAs, and then like, probably like defer your revenues accordingly. Like the business model has to be, the industry has to adopt to this kind of business model. And on the other side, the utilities have to upgrade their internal skill sets, especially the current human resource mixes like mostly like it is on the electrical side. But Abhi, the way things are evolving, they would need more people on the communication side, on the IT side, on the data science side, wherein like there is hardly skill set within the utility. So some of the utilities are taking steps to create appropriate verticals to bring in, this kind of skill set into their human resource mix. So with the evolving business model where the industry has to adopt and, step up to that, and the utility has to work on their human resource mix, and also the partnership approach when they engage with the industry. So if we are able to, successfully do these three things, industry and the utility together, so I think we would be on the right track to building a reliable, resilient, the utility going forward.
Yeah, yeah, sir. I can't agree more because we have seen the journey when this road sector came in PPP mode. So slowly, gradually, we accustomed with that. And I also wish that going forward, power sector will also adopt that kind of model, PPP model, which we are starting from smart metering in distribution sector.
See, in terms of consumer indexing and network mapping, so these are two, critical aspects for you to successfully run the other systems which, run on top of this. Consumer indexing piece and network mapping, as far as energy accounting is concerned, that is by and large factored into the smart metering program. So that is in detail spelled out in the procurement scope of work for the advanced metering infrastructure service provider. So that more or less is taken care of, like since the meter itself will, throw up the GIS coordinates, both at the consumer level and at the DT level and at the feeder level. So by and large, this will come onto your GIS system, but the key thing is like indexing the meter to the DT, or linking the DT to the feeder. So that also like lies in the scope of the AMISP. So they will have to evolve a solution when they are participating in the bids as to what kind of mechanisms they will put in place so that they are able to do this part of the mapping. So this is likely to take some time, but then like as this program grows and matures, this is likely to happen. And on the other side, in terms of implementation of ADMS, uh, in the RAP-DRP, like attempt was made, and the key challenge was one-time activity happened, but then the maintenance did not happen. So whatever effort was put in, like it is practically had, not paid much of fruits. Uh, so in the current program, the idea is to pick up few large cities and work with those cities for ADMS kind of a system, which has DMS, OMS, everything put together in a ADMS, so that the utility is able to handle like a couple of cities, maybe the capital city or maybe the key business district. So those 2, 3 places in a utility is targeted, and then like they are uh, able to upgrade to a full-fledged smart grid, which would essentially involve obviously GIS mapping. But the key success to maintaining this system is like integrating the process, integrating the data to the process. Like for example, like any new consumer addition should happen in the system only after it is mapped on the GIS. And any network change or maintenance order should be implemented only after it is updated on the GIS. Unless you integrate the process with the GIS data, so you will always like end up with a old data and it gets outdated, and then nobody uses that data. So this process integration is key if a utility has to ensure that the data remains up to date and it is useful and it is fully exploited.
Yeah, yeah. Just to add on what sir can you, there are certain utilities, even largely private utility, but few government utility as named by sir also, that they have their process in place to modify or add new customer data on GIS schema. And on top of that, they have some building blocks in place which will play a role of a foundation for ADMS, DMS solution. Nowhere I am saying that they are fully equipped with this, but if you see the RDSS intent, they are creating first building block or basic layer of smart metering. That probably not too much dependent on other technologies except GIS, which is essential for energy accounting. But slowly, gradually, after smart metering, SCADA is almost on the way. So SCADA would come in the picture, and then gradually we'll go on ADMS journey. Any other questions? Or I'll take a liberty, sir. If any message you would like to pass on to utilities, people, or system integrator or OEMs, because they are seeing a big journey in this RDS scheme.
Uh, See, to conclude, what I would say is like as a country and globally, like we are on a energy transition journey, and energy transition, if it has to successfully happen, one of the key pieces is digitization of the transmission and distribution networks. So without this, a successful energy transition would be a serious challenge. So I think in the larger, interest of energy transition, utilities and industry have to work together on this digitization journey.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. Thanks. I really welcome all the panelists for this kind of a STEAM session. In fact, the audience also. I think most of the people are busy in their tea. But yes, your valuable input would be recorded and that can be shared further. So I will not take too much time. We are already running 1 hour late, and I know that most of you are having pre-scheduled commitment. So I'll try to make it more short and concise, but I ensure that I will give full chance to everyone to put their views. It would not be in hurry itself. So as we discussed in our previous session with Mr. Lakshmanan, that we are seeing most of the transactions in terms of digital adoption in power distribution utilities, or rather I would say power utility itself, be it generation, transmission or distribution, or in fact renewable energy as well. So I want that you share your 2 minutes around from what lens you are seeing these kind of changes in the sector, what challenges you are observing, and what is your view around this kind of mammoth digital transformation? Because digital is a big word nowadays. So everywhere we hear digital, digital, digital. In my best understanding in the sector, I hear digital, I hear carbon footprint reduction, EV, and renewable energy. So these are the 4 or 5 terms which are coining out in this sector. So I'll start from you, even so you can share your views, how you are seeing this digital transformation journey in the utility. Over to you, please.
Definitely. Thanks a lot for this. So, just to give a glimpse of why even we entered into the Indian market is because we see that there's a potential over here. Digitalization is one of the factors that everyone follows. So, a quick recap. Um, when we started, it's not only utilities, but Anyline as an organization HQ'd in Vienna. We flew in, along with my colleague Ernest, we flew in 2 days back. So it's not only utilities, there are various sectors that, or let's say various industries that we cater to. But bringing the unique digitalization into utilities, traditional way of reading meters is just by clicking a photograph and punching it into the application by the discom. Right, while punching in, you will have a lot of errors. It can be intentional. It can also be an error because people, they get stressed because of the workload that they have. Wherein what we had in the beginning was OCR, which is called as optical character recognition, and everyone knows what OCR is because it's not something that is unique or something new in the market. 2020, I got in touch with, or let's say we had a discussion with Tata Power Delhi. And there I met a person named as Nikunj Gupta. And then we started discussing and we took the project beyond what we are capable to do. The team was with Joydeep Roy, Mr. Joydeep Roy, then there was Yashika Kumar, Nikunj Gupta. We all sat together, we discussed and we did what was needful for the Indian market. The Anyline, it's an SDK. So 2 sessions back, there was a panel discussion where Mr. Bansal, if I'm naming it correct, he was there. And he was saying how apps will rule the world in the next generations. We're just the back-end side of the app. So app is the front-end side, we are the SDK. Right, so it's not only the OCR what we do, but there is something called as an anti-spoof technology inside this. So let's say if a meter reader is, or let's say if me, myself, I'm trying to trick the system and then read from an adjacent meter or capture a recording from a paper, anything, it gets flagged instantly. And these flagged numbers will, when you jot it down, that brings you to the total non-technical losses, or we term it as NTLs, that the particular utility is having. And moving forward, we'll also be bringing up more products as such. Recently, even we had an official launch in Las Vegas for an event called as SEMA, where it's not for the utility industry, but it's for tire. We have traditional devices where the person just has to, you know, the how do you term this? The workforce has to have a device where they point it to the tire and then you capture the depth of the tire. Wherein we just enable this right now with the use of a mobile device. You just take the phone, hold it from left to right. You get what is your depth on the left, what is in the center, what is on the right, and it gives you precise information how many kilometers can this tire take? Why we brought this up is we work with a lot of companies. It's Indian market, it's a new penetration for us. To be prominent, we even work with FBI. We work with UN. We work with XYZ of companies. But tire safety, this is something that we knew from BMW or Porsche because they use us, or let's say our solution for their manufacturing side. And this is why we bought this innovative solution. So digitization, yes, it is moving forward. For the utilities, at least in the Indian market, what we are doing, along with Tata Power, Tata Power Delhi to be precise, is that we are helping them to save the losses or the corruptions or the wrong reads that happens from the field. And even Mr. Manoj is here. We even started off a partnership with TPWODL, along with another Tata discoms in I would say all the 4 discoms that you find in Odisha region is using our solution at present. So yeah, digitization, yes, it is moving forward.
Thanks, Evan. Because I also firmly believe that NTL is a low-hanging fruit, which we should target. And based on this kind of a digital adoption in the utilities. So NTL is the first and foremost thing which utilities can target, and especially the government utilities. So over to you, Mr. Sharma, my old good friend. So we spent a decent time in the sector. So your views, because you have seen the major transformation which is going through this sector right now, smart metering, and which is, I would say, one of the important components of digital transformation. So how do you see this digital transformation within utilities, and specifically now you've been part of PSUs also, you've been part of SI also, more consulting, and now you're part of kind of a private entity also. So how do you see this?
Yeah, thank you, Vineet, for this opportunity. Thank you. Thanks, Vineet. So, when we say digital utility, right? So there are 2 key aspects of it at present. That is how effectively we manage the energy transition, which is happening currently, and maybe next 2-3 years, the ingress of this energy transition would be more, and I would say it would intrude into our life in a faster way. And second part would be the DR management, right? While we are already building the basic infrastructure in terms of AMI rollouts in different discoms, I would say the approach which has been adopted so far is more focused on reducing the losses, AT&C losses. While it's a pain point right now, but going forward, if you will see that after achieving that milestone, uh, this big infrastructure which we are creating would be rendered useless if we don't uh, architect it properly right now. And my point on this would be how effectively the data flow within the AMI module structure, how effectively the different solution modules uh, at enterprise level solutioning can be basically architected, and the entire solutioning of this AMI from the perspective of managing future cluster-based microgrids be envisaged and designed so that the entire fulcrum of this digital utility can be rested on this particular basic backbone which we are creating. So these 2-3 aspects are very important, and this would also create many other opportunities in terms of better use of analytics and since now the high performance computing is also coming in this domain, the load forecasting and other things which will be required for network management, load management, peak load management, and maybe the augmentation of networks in a city like Delhi where you see the e-vehicles are penetrating at a very fast pace, particularly the domestic e-vehicles, uh, where we don't know how the charging patterns will happen, because the commercial charging stations can be better managed in terms of network or other requirement, but the domestic one would be really a challenge. Although we will get all the information through basic EMI, but if we put other things which can basically provide us the forecasting and maybe the better analysis of consumer behavior, where we can engage the consumer in better way to achieve that TOD kind of solutioning and other things which we can convey to the consumer. So these aspects would be very important in terms of managing and creating digital utilities. And apart from that, this kind of solutioning would also, when I say this kind of, that this has to be an enterprise level solutioning where the modules, different modules can be seamlessly integrated with the basic AMI structure, and the data flow between different data and information, or you can say the service request flows between the intermodule architecture or systems of billing, either it is a billing system or other energy management solutioning modules or AMI modules, and from the consumer level where it involves different applications, mobile applications, or maybe the field applications where the people are managing the outage and other things. So all these can happen, and for this, the architecture at AMI level need to be, I think, properly looked into right now, so that all these future challenges can be properly handled. And although if you see the capex part, we are very much worried, and always our focus would be what would be the capex, the cost of the capex part, how it can be funded and all. While when I say all these solutioning, they doesn't cost too much, and it won't be a very high portion of the capex cost, but we need to put proper brain on the proper solutioning, right? So this is what I feel should be incorporated in the current solution to achieve the goal which we are discussing and trying to promote. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Sharma. And in fact, the one point which you raised in your point of view, and that's a very important point going forward to all the utilities, and they need to focus. In fact, I'm also under the learning mode of the same, that how you can control a demand once EV adoption increases. And that too so very precise in terms of a domestic customer. So I could not validate the fact that BACS probably or Tata Power, they have already defined the kind of a charging station in specification, which can be remotely controlled. So if anyone is putting the charging station in place, so they need to buy the predefined specified charging station, which can be remotely controlled. Remotely controlled means you can acquire the demand consumed at that particular time. So if you want to manage the grid, or if you want to put the grid stability, if your load is shooting up at that particular time, then you can control remotely as well. I heard it, but I could not validate. But it is the future of things for sure. We need to target that. So over to you, Mr. Dadichi, and the agenda which you are running, probably very close to my heart right now, sustainability aspect. And we are seeing that based on the compliances which are coming. So till last year it was optional, now it is mandatory, and the ambit of this sustainability is increasing, number of companies count is increasing. I think earlier it was top BSC 100 companies, now 1000 probably they are part of this. So how do you see digital will help in this sustainability agenda? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vineet. And I must say that digitalization is a continuous journey, not a single point program or one event kind of thing. And I'm happy to share that we started this digitalization journey as early as 2007 when we first introduced SCADA system and tried to build use cases over the data collected over the years. Thereafter, we introduced a lot more solutions in form of ERP, then implemented GIS, and the journey went on. Now, we are at a very crucial juncture at, as far as any power utility is concerned in India especially. As you rightly pointed out, solar rooftop, then EV load and other things are coming in a big way. So the conventional approach of handling the distribution business is required to be changed drastically. And there we need more and more digital solution. So utilities who are already ready and have implemented the basic building blocks will be ahead in the learning curve and will be more cope up with the challenges and the issues which have been discussed. For us, again, since we have early adopters and are sitting at least some amount of digitalization, so we see both the things or all the challenges coming to the utility field, solar rooftop and EV load as an opportunity as well. So rather than worrying for the load curves and other things, consumer behavior for EV charging, we have already started how this could become a part of flexibility provided to the grid. And we are doing successfully done pilot projects around that, Vineet, and you are welcome to visit our test center there where we will show you how we think that these assets, especially the battery swapping station, it can be used as an energy storage because going forward, the managing of peak load for every utility is going to be very, very difficult. So there has to be some non-wired solution in form of demand response or energy storage or something like that. So behind the meter energy storage has to play a big role in terms of managing peak demand or flattening of load curve and other things so that your asset utilization increases at the same time your power purchase cost is also optimized. For that we have huge pressure from the not only from the regulator but also from the common consumers as well. So yes, going forward as we are transforming from a normal power utility to energy service provider company, more and more digitalization has to be done around these all new energy vectors, and it will be really interesting to see how these energy vectors will be interplaying with each other, how solar rooftop can be coupled with managed EV charging station, then again how can we connect it with to battery swapping station and vice versa as well. I see role of aggregators like European market coming to Indian market, power market as well. So yes, the coming time is very challenging, but it's full of opportunities as well for us.
Agree, Mr. Dadichi. So it's generating a huge, huge employment in the sector itself, and especially techno-savvy guys, other techno. So moving to my friend Mr. Mahapatra, and he is part of my cohort, consulting cohort, been part of my consulting cohort. So like to know your views from consulting lens itself. How you are seeing digital?
Thanks, Vinith. So Vinith and I belong to the same tribe. So some of us in our tribe, what we do is we look at all transformation with a null hypothesis. And the null hypothesis is that this transformation is going to fail. And then we work backwards as to finding out what are the regions in which can be taken care of, so that like we can make the transformation a success. Now, all of us in this room, and we have heard so many speakers since morning. Like we have probably started the digitalization or IT or whatever it is, starting with the RAP, and we know that probably maybe power sector would rate as one of the sectors which have received the highest amount of funding support from government and non-government sources and IDA funding. And we still see, like where we are currently, and we are still struggling to find reasons as to, like what to do with this, like how to utilize this efforts effectively so as to turn it around. And now, like from an organization change management perspective, which is very close to my heart, I look at the transformation as something where, like one critical question need to be answered very carefully. So that is the acronym for that stands for WIIAFM. I mean, if you expand it, it's called what's in it for me. So what's in it for me is on both sides of the table. It's on the consumer side also. Like somebody in the, I think Mr. Bansal said right in one of the previous sessions, that the consumer doesn't need, like he gave the example of a telephone bill where you receive the numbers where you have dialed. So the probably what the, like 90% of the consumers would probably look at how much bill they have received, and they would go and simply pay it rather than looking at whichever numbers they have dialed. So same thing stands for the consumer also. We talk a lot of digitalization, data analytics and all that. At the end of the day, we have to really be concerned about, like what is in it for me from a consumer perspective. And then within the organization also, when you are implementing a lot of, like all these digitalization effects, please, like in one of these sessions, there was a direct question to me a long time back, is that, like Mr. Mahapatra, that, like we are talking of a lot of IT and all that. Do you know what are the effects of automation or digitalization on the uh, employee employees of the organization? Okay, my short answer is that it's going to be painful for you. Okay, I stop there. So we all know that automation, digitalization and all that, like whatever AI, ML, RPA, talk of whatnot, what is it going to have effects on the employees of the utility? That's a very hard reality all of us have to face. So, like maybe, like one of the reasons why we have not successfully, I mean, not been able to realize the benefits of digitalization since long is that probably we have not effectively answered the question of WIIFM on the behalf of the employees. And therefore we see a bit of, like reluctance or resistance or, like delay in their adoption of all this technology. But I'm sure, like we have come to a stage where there is a point of no return. Okay. So the point of no return, at the point of no return, we don't have anything else but to choose, okay, and go forward. So then, like that's my perspective on the digitalization or the digital transformation that you talk about. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So I have my own perspective, but I'll spend time with you also, because what I am seeing from the lens from which I am seeing, digital probably will not impact employees in terms of requirement per se or number of employee per se, but it will for sure bring more efficiency in the system, transparency in the system, and probably you would also agree with the fact that the sector, based on various schemes, be it APDRP, RAPDRP, FRP, UDAY and all, probably could not achieve the required objective because of the transparency in the system. The data could not, whatever at site is not coming at the center. So digital largely taking care of those aspects. Yes, the people who are not pretty much, I would say, flexible in terms of adoption of those digital technologies probably will do mundane stuffs in the organization. But knowing utilities, and especially it's a government and governed utilities, I don't see in terms of challenges for their employment per se. Probably if it is employment per se you are talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like with the help of, like new blood coming into the utility and focus on reskilling the people, I think this problem will not be a much of a
On the
problem.
contrary, I would not quote the name, but few very good chaps of the utilities were discussing with me on the other day. We are pretty much now not feeling motivated here itself. We want to go in the private sector because we are pretty much ready which are required in the sector. Good. So I'll catch up with you that point separately. So now over to you, sir, and Yogesh ji. I would like already introduction been done. So, but for me, his introduction and his signature is he is running the mandate of 4 million smart meter rollout in UP. And I know it looks like we are talking about 250 million smart meter rollout in India. But when this journey was started, and in any journey, when you start your journey, there are n number of unforeseen challenges which he is dealing, he dealt and brought, I was discussing with him today itself, brought efficiency, it's around 99.8%, 99.82%. And it's a remarkable achievement in spite of all the challenges he has faced, still facing and moving for next level of challenges of, I was talking 30 million smart meter, almost 30 million smart meter rollout going forward. So over to you, sir.
As when we talk about the digitalization, that in power utility perspective, basic there is the two components. That one is the consumer, second is the generation, and we have to mix with the optimization of all the consumer satisfaction with the optimization of the power generation. When we talk about the generation, then there are the multiple type of generations. That is the one is the thermal, wind, power, solar, and tidal, multiple type. And when we talk about the consumer, then multiple type of consumer. The heavy, matlab, some is the continuous type of consumer, instantaneous consumer, just like charging stations for short time, arc furnaces using heavy electricity for very short time. So we have to mix consumer load pattern with generation load pattern with effective way using digitization. For all this, we have to need data. Data is coming from the meters. Meter in old days, we have the old meters. From old meter, we have capturing data for monthly basis. But when we are talking about the smart meter and AMR, then we can get the data on the real time basis. And similarly, when we talk about the generation end, then there is the generation end also, we can get the real time data of the generation. So after the mixing of the both, we can design the tariff so that the when we have the having the excess generation in daytime or when the wind energy is available, those generation can be utilized to optimize the consumer use. So how can we optimize? So in UP we are doing a study to optimize all this. Basic, we have selected the 100 consumers from the 50 kilowatt to 500 kilowatt consumers. And we are giving them the trigger to use the electricity at that time. And we are planning to all this with this optimization and giving the trigger that you can use the electricity from, say we are giving the message that you can electricity from 11 hours to 2 hours. And similarly, we are giving the trigger for different hours to the different consumers. So consumer using electricity at that time, we are getting the MRI from those consumers, and giving a additional bill. That additional bill is a sample bill on the TOU based tariff. Basically, we are planning to optimize generation plus consumer so that we can give the consumer that from the hour 12 to 1 you will get the energy at 3 rupees, or 2 to 3 you will get the energy at the 4 rupees per hour per unit. So by this study we are planning to give a optimized generation plus load mix and consumer tariff, so that this is the pilot project basically on 100 consumers for analyzing how we can control the energy from energy received from solar and our consumable. Because in UP, multiple number of solar panels are coming in household premises, and that energy, some energy is utilized by the consumers itself for own use, and some energy they are selling to the grid. So this is studies we are doing for future. Second study we are doing in UP, that second study is in very initial stage for the same purpose, optimization of grid on supply. In this study, we are planning to sell energy from the any consumer, any of the consumer, any of the consumer who is having installed a solar panel at his premises or rooftop can sell energy to the nearby consumer or any consumer in the utility area, and we are getting the wheeling charges and giving the energy to that consumer and accounting that. This is the very initial stage because this involves multiple huge data management handling. So when we talk about the huge data handling, then as Ajay said, the architecture of the system must be robust and must be this type of plant that can handle the multiple data. Multiple means when we talk of about the optimization of energy and consumer mix and all these things, then we have to analyze 15-minute data. So this is the very big challenge that will be coming in future to give a better supply to the consumer, better uh, satisfaction to the consumer. Consumer, when we talk about the consumer satisfaction, that means consumer can get every data of his energy at his mobile in fingerprints. So that means he can get the data for how much energy he is consumed for particular hours, particular day, or the weekday, monthly energy. That this data is we are giving for a uh, daily, weekly, and monthly data we are giving to smart meter consumers on mobile applications, as well as the consumer want the that he is not want to go to electricity office. He wants that everything, maybe that we need, he need even bill consumption payment from their mobile. This is going to the challenges for in future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, if I'm not wrong, and if it is not confidential, you're talking about digital ledger. You're working on digital ledger, blockchain technology.
Yeah.
For those consumer, 100 consumer spaces you are doing.
Not 100 consumer. For rooftop.
Rooftop. Okay, okay. No, so that's an emerging technology, and probably all the utilities, probably private utilities already are on that path. But digital ledger is going for sure because now consumer you are playing a role of a consumer, so we need to keep that in mind. So with this note, I will move to Manoj. So probably that you are facing the big toughest time handling uh, Western Odisha region distribution company. I worked with that setup way back in 2009-10, and I still recall the previous chairman of Vesco. Vesco Southco was joint entity at that point of time. So chairman who was ex-DRC chairman. So I was discussing with him on one fine morning when their tariff revision came in the picture. So I thought that, sir, congratulations, now your tariff got approved and you were waiting since long back, tariff should be revised so that you can get the right set of payment for your power supply. Then he told Vineet, okay, it's fine, my tariff got approved, but eventually my losses will further improve. So earlier I was supplying power of 100 rupees and my losses were 50 rupees. Now I will supply power of 200 rupees in my book of business because my tariff is revised and my losses would be 150 rupees. So that kind of challenges I can correlate, and Tata Power is now taking up those kind of territories. And I know most of the thing, as I was discussing with Mr. Mahapatra, that things would come online once you have right set of accountability or transparency in the system. So digital brings that aspect. So how do you see you are taking forward digital journey in those kind of terrain?
Thank you, Vineet. So, really, I have worked in Tata Power for last 12 years and more than 12 years now, and part of all distribution company. That means in Delhi also when we started, I was here, and thereafter in Mumbai, and now I'm in Odisha. So Odisha, as you said, is a different, complete territory is different. And first time, I think any private utility has taken that kind of step that now we have, like for my company, there are four joint venture company in Odisha, that all joint venture company between Odisha government and Tata Power. And I am the chief IT of one of the company, that is TPW in western part of it. So 48,000 square kilometer and mostly rural area, and where you will find villages which will have 5, 10 houses, and cost of collecting money from those consumers will more than that they are paying. So those kind of challenges are there. So how I see this is a really a challenge, and that's why the technology is what, whether it's a digital, call it whatever is there. So it does, and I work in other sector also. The fundamental remains same. Fundamental is that you implement technology for few things. Either you are securing or just stopping revenue leakage, bringing operational efficiency. In our case, safety also, and then it will be imply productivity, and those are the fundamental through which you are working. So what we are also working is keeping eye on all those things. And since we have that what we should do there, because for as a technology is tax, it is a very, very clear that what you will do in the IT and OT, everything is there, ERP you have to implement, ADMS kind of thing you have to implement. But two things come in play. Number one is that how much money you have year on year. It's a regulatory business. There is a geopolitical issues are there. What you will implement, what you will not implement. So prioritizing that thing. That is one part of it. Then second thing is there you have different mix of consumers are there, and you have to take care of need of every consumer. So what we have done, we have not gone by the technology first. We have gone by the need of every individuals in terms of consumer segments as well as our employee. Why I'm saying employee also, till I joined there, there was no IT department. So department started with me only. So you can understand that what kind of adoption of technology or IT system would have been there. So while implementing thing, what I've learned, start with who will be using it and for whom you are doing it, and also take care of what is the situation there, regulatory framework, and how much money you have to do. So this is my take, and I will not go in detail. And I take just to summarize, and in the interest of time, your talk with Mr. R. Lakshmanan, everything is like that only, that you have to digitize your assets and then your processes, and there should be a good interconnectivity between the two, and that sums up everything. And whatever we are doing, there's just names, and every business will have different technologies to it. So that's for me from side.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj. Probably I'll like to spend time with you, not in this forum, one-to-one in terms of to understand. You applied mobile, this Airtel bank payment collection probably. And so that's a very niche solution you brought across the table in rural specifically, which on the other day I was discussing with the MD UPPCL. So that's probably will increase the collection efficiency of rural areas because of the kind of a point of presence these communication vendors are having. But I'll discuss that.
Just quickly, I would like to add. So, for collection, people know that there is a collection app will be there. Every utility is using this. But in Odisha, in far-flung areas, there is no network at all. How will collect that? And that's why then you think out of the box and you bring technology which can work in those situations as well. Offline collection, and then wherever you get signal, it gets connected with the backend servers and data is updated. So that kind of thing because you have to understand where you are working, what is situation is there, and then accordingly you adopt technology implementation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manoj. So moving to Mr. Joglekar, so we spent decent time across the corridors in your office as well. So as we heard that smart metering technologies are coming, digital adoption is coming. So your organization doing a lot in this space. And largely you are moving from not only smart metering to smart grid now. So what is your thought process in terms of adopting smart grid technologies on the layer of smart metering? And any specific suggestion from your side to adopt this based on your experience in your organization?
Well, as you rightly said, we are moving in large scale in terms of AMI implementation, be it our own organization or be it BST that we have recently awarded. So that's a basic framework we have. Now, at the same time, we are building ADMS framework, which Abhijit has already discussed in the morning session. And these are the two basic building blocks that we are making it ready. Now, in order to have the data exchange between these, there is some kind of analytical layer we need, and that's where we are moving for data lake, full-scale data lake implementation, which you will see in recent times. That's where our all ADMS, maybe AMI systems, our SAP systems, or GIS systems that will interconnect and exchange data, and on the top we'll build some predictive analytical models which will help to further serve our customer in a better way. Now the third part, which is slightly neglected, specifically in Mumbai area, is sensorization of LT distribution network or pillars. Now if you look at Mumbai, it's at especially AML distribution area, we have predominant presence of LT distribution. The ADMS, maybe GIS, everything, that will suffice our HT network or HT layer. But what about LT network? So that's where we have run some pilots. We did do some sensorizations. I mean, we did current voltage and temperature sensors connected at some pillars as a pilot basis and check whether we can get information in real time. And that was a success. Obviously, there are some operational issues that we are going to fixing up, specifically with connection of CTs or connection of voltage coils. So that is the area where we are currently focusing on, and that's the way we are looking ahead for future journey.
Thank you, sir. So our last panelist is joining us through web. Probably he's connected, Mr. Pavel. Hi, Pavel. Can you hear me? Just a minute. I think his volume is being increased. So just a minute. Just a minute. Wait a minute. Hi, Fevin. So, I think you can speak now. Probably I've been given a go ahead that we can hear you now. Can you please? Sorry, I can't hear him. Fevin, no, I can't hear him. अभी आवाज नहीं आ रही. So by the time we are getting the voice of Fevin, I'd invite all of you, if you have any question to this team panelist, which they can answer based on the kind of input shared by our panelists, starting from non-technical loss reduction, talking about human resource aspect, technology, and operational efficiency, financial sustainability. They touch most of the key important aspects of the sector. So if you would like to ask any question till the time Fevins, we get connected with Fevins for his voice per se. Any questions which you like to ask? I don't think sector is so much structured that you don't have any questions. So okay, I'll take a privilege of this time. So, can you speak now?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you better, but not. Uh,
How about now?
yeah, it's improving, but not up to the mark, to be very honest, because probably I'm not able to hear properly.
Sorry, if I may, maybe Fabian could increase his volume on the laptop, or if he wears a headset, then probably it'd be more audible to us, because Zoom calls sometimes is a bit tricky.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, Fabian, can you probably try using a headset, or maybe can you
Okay.
increase your
I will do
volume?
that. Just a second.
Kevin, can you speak now?
Use my phone for the audio. If you let me in.
So by the time I get go ahead from audio team, my question to probably Mr. Joglekar or Manu or BSES team, because very important point touched by Mr. Mahapatra. What is it for me? From that per se, how do you keep motivated your employees or upskill your employees? So that kind of a learning should be percolated to government entities also. Nowhere I am saying government entities are not doing this. They are also focusing this. But probably we have seen, because in private entities there is a dedicated L&D team is there, human resource team is focusing on that aspect specifically. So with this consideration, what's your view in terms of upskilling or learning and development aspect of the team to embrace these kind of a new technology? Mr. Manu.
Mr. Manu. Mr. Manu. Mr. Manu. Mr. Manu.
So I will give
So
you.
I will. So I will. So I will.
Uh,
Uh, uh, uh, uh,
I think it's
I
okay.
think it's. I think it's. I think it's.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
So I will give my experience there. So we will be completing 2 years company in Odisha. And you can understand, imagine there was no so you can can understand that. And you know, you keep working, and then you are going, and there are some interest is also there. So bringing the two ways of doing it, and what we adopt is that it's not
Can you hear me now?
even those who are implementing the system, they have started adoption of that in their business, whatever they are doing. So we have taken this way. Any implementation in this technology there, and efficacy of those who are implementing it in a division, and will be incentivized also. And there's a to do, and that's how we have done. For any small we create a kind of thing that the cycle time is reduced, or your data in some time. So they should find value, and it should be visible to them that what kind of benefit they are getting. And it should be integral part of is those who are implementing done as well.
I'll take it. And we can hear him loud and clear. One more try, Fevin. One more try, Fevin. Fevin, you are.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Can you speak now?
Can you hear me now?
I think you are on mute.
Hello?
So जो you
I will just echo what very few chances all employees who are process during the if you are able to high chances of adoption and rather 100% adoption is just give you an example wherein your team initially it was on hardware mobile app. Soon they see the benefits of the then we again develop their work is by almost 90%. So it's all about definitely there is
employee motivation, learning
At the start of introducing any new technology, there is inertia among the employees, and a proper program for upskilling, motivation, reward and recognition, and of course the socialization. And it depends on what type of trainers you are using. So it's a combination of upskilling plus motivation. Both type of things has to be provided to all the employees, and it has to be taken to the roots of the organization where the people are really working and supposed to use this kind of technology to provide them information and knowledge about the benefits, and give them the confidence that this technology is going to reduce their workload and of course the productivity of the company itself. So the training programs and upskilling programs have to be designed in such a manner, and more use of, because seeing is believing. So we have to carry out more and more practical sessions in order to implement and show them audio visual mode, or maybe nowadays we are using AR VR technology into that, so that people can feel the effect of new technology in terms of whether it is drone based maintenance practices or API or something like that. So it eases their life. So in that way, and the second thing is that rather than calling external faculty or something, you can do it this in a little way, but ultimately to make the program sustainable, you have to bring the program like train the trainers. So you have to build the faculty within your organizations so that the people are more close to them and they have the full confidence. Because if I say to my staff that this is a good product or technology which is eventually going to benefit them, they will listen to me rather than any external faculty or external expert. So first, you should choose the people very carefully to make them trainers, and then probably we can start the full-fledged activity.
So thanks, Mr. Darichi. So I'm giving my last try. We can hear Fevin. Fevin, over to you.
Hello,
Your views
can
around
you hear me
digital
now?
adoption.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Also, thank you for having me, right? And I'm so sorry that I can't be there with you and causing some trouble with the Zoom meeting. Do you hear me now?
So I think your voice is not as loud as we can hear. So I'm some maximum voice.
Yes. Is it okay now? I'm talking now. Is that okay? Okay. Yes, so sorry for the trouble. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you. I'm calling from Taiwan, but my colleague Dhananjay is there with you. So, yeah, we are from Taiwan, and we've been involved in the deployment of AMI in Taiwan since 2018. Do you hear me? Okay. Yes. So sorry for the trouble. We are based in Taiwan, and we've been involved since 2018 in the deployment of AMI at scale, the scale of Taiwan. Though, so the plan of Taiwan Power is to deploy 6 million meters by 2030. I'm excited to see that India is at the same path of the large-scale AMI deployment. We acknowledge this would be a challenging deployment to connect all those smart meters, and we are quite excited that we can bring the lesson learned from Taiwan rollout to India to be able to connect those more than 20.
Nabil, probably, I'm sorry we are not able to hear you properly.
Okay.
So in the interest of the time, because few panelists are having their flights, so I'm just closing up this session and over to you, Urvashi. Thanks a lot, panelists, sharing your views. So I know this is a time challenge, so I would like to discuss with you more in detail, but excuse me, that's a time challenge. Okay, over to you, Urvashi.